Most of the people who awaken spontaneously don't even know what a spiritual awakening is. It's usually a glimpse, it's a temporary spiritual experience.
Yeah.
But then you've seen too much and now you know too much. Now you then become a seeker. Once you become a seeker, you're set for a different kind of life. You can't go back to sleep. You could try to forget it. You could try to have amnesia, but good luck because it's going to haunt you. I
Hmm.
am. But
Yeah.
what does that even really mean? I am comes from the verb to be. The definition of to be means to exist. The experience of doing something changes when it's coming from a place of being. When you're operating from your being, that is the highest vibration that you can live from.
Could you describe the vision you got of this new Earth?
They were saying we need to now shift into a new mode, a new purpose. And the shift in the axis was symbolizing a shift in the collective consciousness and in evolution. And they kept calling it the tipping point. It's the first of its kind, like jump in evolution in terms of magnitude and speed. Earth is ready for that next level. The awakening has a lot to do, almost everything to do with the new Earth. It is a prophecy, as in it's our destiny, but it is still up to us to make that happen.
Thank you for coming on here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm
Of
excited.
course. Yes. So, yeah, would you be able to give us a little bit about who you are and where you come from, what your work is, and then, yeah, we can go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm first and foremost, before anything, I am a being. And on this exterior, I do the work of consciousness, I guess is one way to put it. So I am here to help people elevate their consciousness, or in other words, to come back to their true selves or to
Mhm.
remember who they really are. So, yeah, it's
Amazing.
kind of a big task, but
Well, I mean, what other task could there be? What more worthy task or honorable task could there
yeah,
be, you know?
agreed.
Yeah, very virtuous. So, how do we go about doing that, you know? What's the starting point maybe to finding the true self?
Yeah, so that's like the question, right? It's the
Yeah,
question that many have asked for millennia. But I think you have the very I guess few, or yeah, very few, but they're growing in numbers. These are people who are awakening accidentally or spontaneously, or
hmm
most of the people who awaken spontaneously don't even know what a spiritual awakening is.
yeah,
So this is like the beginning of this like mass awakening where like we're seeing this more and more around the globe, people just spontaneously awakening. And then you have the actual seekers who know this on an intellectual level, but who want to have the actual spiritual experience of awakening. And so I think there's no real right or wrong way to go about it. I mean, when you awaken spontaneously, it's not a choice anyway.
hmm
But then you have the seekers who actually seek this truth of who they really are, this thing that mystics and ascended masters talk about so seriously in some ways
yeah,
for a very long time. And so they're these seekers. And I commend these seekers because it's not an easy path. The spiritual path isn't easy. So the truth of the matter is, because I've been on both ends, I've awakened spontaneously, but then there's this like sense of losing it because it's usually a glimpse, it's a temporary spiritual experience.
yeah,
But then you've seen too much and now you know too much.
yeah,
So now you then become a seeker.
hmm hmm
So then once you become a seeker, that you're set for a different kind of life. You can't go back to sleep. You can't pretend. You could try to forget it. You could try to have amnesia, but good luck because it's going to haunt you if you do
yeah,
that.
yeah,
So there is this way of awakening sort of gradually. Even for people who haven't awakened spontaneously, there is this way of just simply coming back to your state of being, your natural, your most natural and raw state of the I am. So that is, I think, one way to go about it. And that's one of the things I'm trying to teach people is to come back to your being.
Mm-hmm.
Because essentially, when you think about it, I am. Everyone says it, but especially in the spiritual community, right? I
Mm-hmm.
am. But
Yeah.
what does that even really mean? It's like this very overlooked sort of statement. But I am comes from the verb to be. To be
Uh-huh.
means just being. And when you're just being in that state of being, that is actually how your being is. So there's no difference between your actual being and in the state of being. That is how your being comes through, is when you align yourself and center yourself to the state of being, if that makes sense.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
And there's nothing that one has to add per se. There's nothing that one has to do to be.
exactly. Like I am, it's not, when Yahweh said, I am that I am to Moses, right, in the book of Exodus, he describes himself. So God says his name is Yahweh, and then he describes himself as I am that I am.
Mm.
What does that even mean? People who read that like are probably
Yeah,
so lost.
I know, right?
It's like an overly simplistic statement that doesn't mean really anything, but it's the answers are always in the roots. So if you look at I am, the definition of I am, the definition of to be means to exist. So scholars have studied the word Yahweh, and they have come to the conclusion that the closest definition to Yahweh is he who brings his existence, who he brings existence to exist, or something along the lines of that.
Mm.
So to be is just to exist. You just have to be, just exist. And then there are no other layers on top of that. There are no, it's not, God didn't say, I am happy or I am sad. He said, I am. So that's the
Yeah.
core of everybody. That's the core of
Mm.
who we are, is just I am. That's it. We don't need to, we overcomplicate things,
I know,
but
right?
we just need to come back to this internal I am state.
Yeah.
So
And
easy,
then,
yet so hard.
yes, it's so simple, yet we overcomplicate it. That's the spiritual path, though, is getting out of our own way to reside as this I amness. And what was it Moses that said, I am that I am? I think that's like a poignant addition to it because it's I am that I am,
Yeah.
right? So that's a little more because we're always like, I am hungry or I am tired, but this is I am that I am.
Mm-hmm.
And that adds something. That adds that's like a little cherry on top of the I amness of Yahweh. So yeah, it's I don't really know what else to say to it. I mean, that's really all you can say is I am that I am at the end of the day.
Exactly. And it's
But
a great place
yeah,
to start like contemplating. It's a great space to start the self-inquiry is just with what does that even mean? I am that I
yeah,
am. But it's
exactly.
Yahweh, it's God who said that to Moses at the burning bush.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm not that I'm religious or anything. It just happens so that it makes all the sense in the world.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes the most sense out of anything. But you're right, we gloss over it. It's just taken with a grain of salt at face value. But that's the difference between taking these religions at a level of false idolatry and knowing what they're really talking about in the Bible. And knowing what they're really talking about is taking that into your own sense of being, like taking that into your own experience and feeling that I amness. And once you feel it, like you said, you don't go back, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, and it's funny too because I don't know if it's funny, but it's peculiar. This is we don't even think about before the spiritual path. We don't even think about our own being, our own I amness. And I think that's the epitome of being in the matrix. Like we
Yeah.
don't even realize what it means to be. But when you start to internalize what it means to be, Pandora's box opens for the possibilities of one's life. And it's just like, oh, this is it. Hidden in plain sight the whole time. My own just existence. Right? It's very strange, but it seems to be some kind of joke that we pull on ourselves our whole life until we
Yeah.
get the glimpse into it, you
It's
know?
a cosmic joke. And that's the
Yeah.
whole cosmic joke. It's, you go to these seekers who go, traveling the world to seek these gurus, like all the way to the Himalayas and all that to India, only to actually realize that it's been here the whole time.
Truly. Yep.
It's in you. And you kind of feel ridiculous when you find that out. You're like, oh my goodness, it's literally been here this whole time within me. And I've been
Yeah.
seeking outside of myself.
Yeah.
How ridiculous.
Very ridiculous. And I sometimes feel ridiculous even just talking about it. Because it's like, what do you even have to say? What do I have to say? The only thing that we can say that would provide value for you, me, and anybody listening is go within. That's it. Go with it. It's not about me. It's not about you, as in you, Zenobia. It's about you who's listening. Like, it's about you and your journey. There's no guru, podcast, book, or anything that's going to do it for you other than internalizing this wavelength within oneself, within one's own direct experience. And
Mhm.
yeah, powerful stuff. But would you recommend like a practice of meditation to the seeker? A general just stilling the mind or stepping back from all the craziness of the world?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So there are actually three main practices that I do that I'm creating an e-course right now to teach about this.
Hmm.
And the first one is actually breath work. And I'm not talking about holotropic or somatic integration breath work. I'm not talking about any of those intense breath works. I'm talking about simply breathing the way we're supposed to breathe.
Mm.
And breathing in Latin, in breathing is actually inspirare, in spirit.
Oh,
So breath is actually what animates us and it's what makes us alive and it makes us be able to have the experience of existing itself.
yeah.
So breath is highly connected to spirit as in our true nature. And so when you're breathing properly, you're actually calming down your nervous system and you're actually aligning your chakras and you're becoming, that's the definition of centeredness. You're becoming in your own. You're taking your one seat, as they say in Buddhism. And so you're centered and that's the closest as you will get to your true nature through breath work. So
Mm.
that's why breath work is so important before meditation. That's why we always take 3 deep breaths before any big event or before this podcast or,
Mhm.
anything like that, is to calm ourselves down because that relaxed and calm state is getting closer to your being. So this breath work is there are many ways you can do it, but essentially is just being very conscious of each breath that you take. And sometimes, if you feel like it, you can even add a mantra to it. And
Yeah.
while you're inhaling, you can say the words of I am. You can say I in your inhalation,
Mm.
and then you could feel the am, the action of being through the heart center, and breathe it out with the am. So I am through the nose, and then you have to feel the I amness with it. You have to feel your existence. And it's a very profound, very subtle and silent feeling, but that can blossom like lotus flower the more you
Mm.
do it.
Yeah.
And the second practice is obviously meditation. Once you have then centered, I wouldn't even recommend meditation without the breath work. I
Hmm.
think breath work is even more important than the meditation itself. So once you've centered with breath work, you sit down and then again, you use the mantra I am and you feel it through the heart because it's through the heart that it manifests. The I amness manifests into the material. So this is what I do. You practice the I amness through the I am meditation. And every word you say, I am, you need to really focus on it, and you really need to feel it at your heart. And then the third practice is simply operating in your daily life when you're not meditating to remember as often as you can to come from this place of being, to bring yourself back to this state of being and then operating from that place. Whether
Hmm.
you're doing the dishes, whether you're working, whether you're walking your dog, just constantly reminding yourself. And just a simple reminder is increasing your consciousness, is practicing your coming from your beingness.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
those are the three that I would highly recommend, and
Mm.
it does wonders for me.
Oh, for sure. And again, it's so simple in that way.
Hmm.
And we're always breathing. So if you do establish this method in one's life, you can take it anywhere, really. I think that's where this all leads to. That's the goal, you could say, of a meditative practice is to make your life the meditative practice. And yeah, things will change. That's for sure.
Yeah,
Things will change in how we respond. I feel as though it all comes from just being still, aligning, and then from that alignment is a very practical and sattvic or pure response. It's very just it's hard to say because it depends on the circumstance. So it's hard to generalize, but it's just smoother, I guess you could say. It just
yeah,
makes life a little bit smoother because you know how to respond to the turmoils and turbulence of your life altogether a little bit better. So you don't create more turbulence and suffering, essentially.
yeah.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
you're operating from your beingness, it means you're very centered. And when you're centered within your axis, you're strong in your foundation of who you are because you now know who you are. So you're not as easily influenced by external factors. You're not as easily affected by
Hmm.
external things. In yourself. So it's very hard to shake that, I guess, in some
Mm.
ways.
Yeah. I like to say it provides a impenetrability to
Mm,
oneself. Being still is yeah, it's like a suit of armor. And that's priceless. To
yeah,
really have that in one's life, it's like a superpower.
yeah,
And yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, I'm not perfect. I'm not gonna come on here and claim that I am still all the time. The tests keep coming for sure.
Oh, me
Uh,
neither. And I don't believe anybody who says they are.
yeah,
That
right.
is
I get
simply not
suspect.
true.
Yeah, exactly. I
I
do
mean,
believe there are beings, though. There have been beings that
mhm,
are completely in that state,
absolutely.
which are amazing examples for all of us. So it's like have a realisticness to this path, to this wavelength about your life and your karma, but also know that it's possible. It's not outside of the reach of who you can be, right?
Yeah,
Those beings, like I don't know, we'll say Buddha,
yeah,
Jesus, any saint and sage of the past, a lot of swamis, they're human beings too, just like you. So you might not be there yet per se, but with a little bit of time and a little bit of practice, you may get there someday. And even if you don't get there per se, it's all about the cliche, the journey is the destination. It's all about finding that in your own life, in your own circumstances, and you will little by little, find that change to be essentially just more peaceful. I think that's really what it comes
yeah.
down to. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's our own journey, but it's also a soul's journey. So
Yeah.
like, if it may not be in this lifetime, it probably won't happen in this lifetime to be
Yeah.
perfectly realistic and honest,
Yeah.
but it probably that will follow through your next life and then your next, and there's an accumulation that
Hmm.
that comes through a deepening. So we have to also remember that we're not limited to just one life.
Oh yeah.
We It'll continue, and it is a continuous soul evolution rather than
Hmm.
just our own evolution in this one life. So
Hmm.
yeah, it's not the end.
It's not the end. That's a huge revelation that dawns upon one from this realization is that we take our samskaras with us. We take the lessons that we learn or don't learn actually with us into the next life.
Hmm.
that's huge. And that puts a lot more context into the spiritual path.
Hmm.
You know, when you can swallow the pill of reincarnation, just things make a lot more sense in particular Buddhism and yogic philosophies. I mean that you have to take reincarnation. If you're believing in karma and stuff like that, you have to also take into account reincarnation. It just doesn't make sense any other way.
Hmm.
Yeah, but what you said is very important. It's a soul path. And if you want to believe in reincarnation or not, um, you could look at it as the future incarnations of maybe your children or
Hmm.
generations ahead of us. You don't have to think it's like it's your soul, but either way, whatever you're doing to refine your character is helping out the world in one way or another. It might literally be from your next life, or just like I said, it might be the people who come after us. So it's a
Exactly.
win-win.
Yeah. It's I don't know if there's yet a scientific way to prove this, but I genuinely believe that your own evolution affects the collective's evolution
Oh
because
yeah.
a collective is the formation of individuals.
Hmm.
So you, by just changing yourself, you're in ways you maybe can't see affecting others around you just energetically.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why when, you're in the presence of a great master or a swami or a guru, a true one, or, any of these great teachers, there's like this transmission that happens just by being in their presence.
Yeah.
That has a power to awaken you. Just by
Hmm.
being there, there's some sort of energetic transmission that happens. And so, yeah, I believe in this impact that you can have on others just by changing yourself.
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's that morphic resonance right there. Yeah. And I think there is some kind of locality tied to it. Like if you're literally in the same room as Ramana Maharshi, probably gonna have an effect on you. But
Yeah.
I think just the fact that we're all on Earth, we're all here in this moment, we're all part of the I am, it also has some sort of non-local morphic resonance to the energy of the Earth in some way that I'm not even going to try and explain. But I think that's what's happening right now. I think a lot of us are waking up, and that's why it's getting a little funky. It's getting a little weird out there because everybody's waking up and we're affecting the energy of the Earth in
Yeah.
ways, like you said, that we can't even imagine.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's I don't know. Do you have anything to say to that?
Yeah. I mean, it is a broad subject, but we are starting to witness, like you said, a lot of weirdness, quote unquote,
Yeah,
in the world. And because this time has been, it was a long time coming.
yeah.
This mass awakening, call it the tipping point or the shift or whatever it is, it is it's that we're ready to shift into our next evolutionary stage. Earth is ready to shift, and we are Earth. We're Earthlings.
Yeah.
We're not separate from her. So it's time that transitional phase has begun, and we're
Mm,
at the very beginning of it. And
yeah.
that's why shit is getting wild out there.
It's getting buck wild for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's all for our betterment. You know, if one isn't on this path, it may look like, what the heck is happening? Is the world ending? In some way, it actually is ending. The old ways
Hmm.
are ending, but it's giving birth through metamorphosis,
Yeah.
a new way, a new earth. Yeah. And I think you mentioned that actually in the description, the meeting description, you got a vision of New Earth or something like that, or it's on your website. Could you describe the vision you got of this new Earth that we are creating?
Yeah. 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 So I got a vision 10 years ago. Um, Yeah, I was a student. I was a fashion student back then. So my main focus 10 years ago was mainly on the latest trends, the latest
Hmm.
fashion trends. My headspace was not in the future of humanity or anything like that. But so God knows why I received that vision at that time. It was after school and I had a hectic day and I just couldn't wait to go back home. And I sat in the subway and just like rush hour, and it was just a mess. And I sat down and just closed my eyes, and I was like, "Oh, this is my time to relax after a really big day." And then, and And then, yeah, I kind of just like got locked into this trance and I just sort of got curious about it. And then literally just a movie started to play in my mind.
Wow.
And it was showing me the past, present, and the future of Earth. And it was showing me that basically up until now, or very recently, we have been operating from the survival mode. And they
Yep.
kept on saying survival mode, and that it was necessary for us to be here now, so that we can't really hate on it because it's thanks to them, to our ancestors, that we are here.
That we
Yet
survived.
that we survive and that we're able to even have this talk.
Hmm.
But the problem is, that survival mode is now expired. We have gotten to a point where it's no longer serving us. It's actually doing a huge disservice to the point where it can become self-destructive if we keep operating from survival mode.
Hmm.
And it showed me that literally all the problems in the world are actually based from survival mode.
Yeah.
And even things that we don't necessarily relate to, it actually all stems from, like, it showed me depression, anxiety, obesity, and wars, and all the global to individual problems all actually stem from survival mode.
Mm.
And they were saying we need to now shift into a new mode. So they were saying the purpose in the past was survival. Now we need a new purpose, new purpose, new purpose. And they wouldn't tell me exactly what it was, but they just kept saying we need to shift into a new purpose. And then I was shown the globe and the axis was shifting, and the shift in the axis was symbolizing a shift in our consciousness, in the collective consciousness, and in evolution. That was a big one. They kept referring to like Charles Darwin's theory of evolution, and they were
Mm.
saying that that was correct up until now, but
Wow.
now is a different kind of evolution.
Yeah.
And they called this time frame because the axis were shifting, and that little time, that little, I guess, portion where the axis was moving, they were showing me that's a metaphor for the time frame that we have
Oh,
in
wow.
terms of the transition. And they kept calling it the tipping point,
Hmm.
and that we're about to tip over because this evolution is no longer the same way that it has been in the past, where it's gradual and progressive. It's more of a jump. It's a very there hasn't been this level of like jump in evolution in terms of magnitude and speed. So it's the first of its kind. Like Earth is ready for that next level, basically. And and then and then it showed me the future of what Earth could potentially be, I guess. And I hesitate to talk about this because it seems out there. It seems like very sci-fi, but I'm just going to say it anyway. I do have a video about it, but this being, it was just this translucent being, showed me, gave me like a tour, kind of like of the new Earth. And it wasn't that it was like anything crazy. It just basically showed me that our own evolution is going to affect the evolution of the vegetation kingdom, the animal kingdom, and the mineral kingdom. So it was just showing me that, like, as we evolve, as humans evolve, everything else on Earth is also going to evolve with us. And almost like we're very powerful in that sense. Like everything, like the Earth is evolving. It's not just a human.
Yeah.
And then it did tell me something, yeah, kind of very far-fetched, sort of in my mind at the time, but it showed me that we will no longer be named like Homo sapiens or humans. There's going to be a new name for our next stage in evolution, but they didn't tell me what. And funny enough, this summer I was reading, actually in the fall, I was reading The Map of Consciousness from Dr. David Hawkins. I don't know if you know that book.
Hmm.
And he actually talks about this, a very specific thing. And I don't really open up about stuff. So it was mind blowing to hear somebody else talk about this next stage in evolution of humanity. And he called this Homo spiritus. And then I
Wow.
found other people call it like Homo luminous or Homo
Mm.
Sanctus Luminous. Edward Grant talks about that as well. And so I was like, I knew I wasn't crazy. I was onto something.
Hmm.
Well, it wasn't me per se. It was the message that I got.
Hmm.
So you can imagine like a message like that can really throw you into the deep end, sort of. I didn't
Yeah.
know what to do with this information. The only person I told at the time was my mom, and all she told me was write it down, so you don't forget it. And I started researching, and I realized that this was actually it was no new news. Everyone there apparently a lot of people knew about this, and it actually goes way back into the Bible. The Bible calls out this prophecy, and I figured out that there was a name to this, and that it was called the New Earth. And so, yeah, for the past 10 years, I've been just piecing the puzzles together, and this is a vision that I got, but I know that it's a slice of the truth. There are many other different perspectives and ways of understanding the new earth, but this is the one that I was shown, and it has served me as my North Star in my journey, sort of like a guiding map.
Yeah.
So you can't ignore a message like that when you get one. So that's kind of what I've been doing. And I've been piecing the puzzle together, and I later on made the link between awakening and the new earth, and that it's actually quite linked. They're not separate, and nothing is separate. Everything's
Mm.
connected. But this one particularly is the awakening has a lot to do, almost everything to do with the new earth.
Yeah.
So, so yeah, that was the vision.
Wow. Powerful stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the difference between Darwinian evolution and this next evolution, this next stage, is we're taking it into our own hands. It's conscious evolution. We're going
Hmm.
from being at the whim of our environment to taking this where we want to take it, sovereignty. And with that, yes, it will be expedited. And also, I mean, I don't think there'll be any bounds. Like we'll be able to become gods or demigods in some sort of way. Who knows where this is going? But all that matters is we feel it. We feel it now. And if you can feel it now, it's obvious. It's quite apparent where this is all going. Like obviously, this is going somewhere in the realm of growth in one's own life, but also at a collective level. It's all like moving toward a sense of novelty, as Terence McKenna would say. Uh, just novelty upon novelty. And yeah, wonderful times that we're in. It's definitely the transitory period that we're in. It's like a puberty stage of humanity,
Hmm.
but I think it's already done. Like I think the die has already been cast and we're already in New Earth. And I think we mentioned this before. That's why it's getting a little messy, is because the energy's here for it, but it has to take a little time to change on the phenomenal plane, on the physical plane.
Hmm.
So yeah, we're seeing a little destruction before we get to become reborn as the one soul. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's gonna be cool. It's gonna be really
It's
cool.
pretty epic. I when I realized that I we were all living at this transitional phase, which is like a very monumental time in the history of Earth, I was
Yeah.
kind of like alone, being like, "Holy shit,
Hmm.
this is epic times to be living
Epic.
at this time." It's insane because this is a prophecy that had been told since you know for I don't know how long, like
Yeah.
thousands of years, so that we're now alive to live it and participate in it and to affect it is
Hmm.
yeah, it's pretty damn cool.
Yeah. We're living in the prophecy.
We are.
Prophecy is now.
It is,
Yeah.
yeah. And the prophecy is it is a prophecy as in it's our destiny, but it is still up to us to make that happen.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
it doesn't mean that we could just, hands off and not do any inner work. We gotta
Mm,
work towards it. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. But the thing is, it's like how we become the most effective at creating this new earth is also a sense of surrender to a greater power that is enabling this to happen, surrendering to God. You don't have to say God. You can say divine intelligence. You can say Sadguru within. You can say the aliens. Whatever you want to say, you surrender to some kind of greater intelligence than one's egotistical, humanly wants and needs. Like you give that all up to a greater force, a greater point of living, and that sort of does take over. It doesn't mean you don't have to work. If anything, it helps me excel in my work. But
Mm-hmm.
it all comes from the foundation of surrender, like a sort of, okay, wake up in the morning. What do you need me to do today?
Mm-hmm.
What shall I do? Thy will be done type of attitude.
Mm-hmm.
And then from that, yeah, it's just becomes clear what you have to do. That's the
Yeah.
thing. So yeah, surrender I think can get a bad rap. Like a lot of people in the spiritual community might think surrender is just chilling on the couch, eating Cheetos. I'm surrendered. No, it's actually quite the contrary. Surrender is giving up your will to some kind of universal will, the universal will of divine love of God. And that takes over and yeah, yeah, then the
Yeah.
fun starts. The new earth is present in your life, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's beautiful how you worded that. It is so true that surrender is not about sitting on the couch and being idle, about just letting things happen to you. Surrender, to me, it means surrendering to your true self, which is the I am, which is Yahweh, which is God. So it just goes back to we have God within all of us.
Yeah.
That's just a I guess if you don't like the word God because there's too much of a religious connotation to it, you could use I am. You can use source. You can use
Yeah.
any other word that resonates more with you. But one thing that's undeniable is that we are a being. We have an expanded being within us at the
Hmm.
deeper. I think a more accurate term for higher self is actually deeper self because it's at the
I like that.
core of who we are.
Yeah.
Higher is just it's a hierarchical mentality thing that humans have created because we're mammals. But at the
Hmm.
end of the day, it's deep within us. That's why you have to sit in silence and go into your own existence at the
Hmm.
atomic level. That's where God is. That's what God is. It is the I
Hmm.
am. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. I like that. The deeper self. I'm gonna have to use that one for now on. I like that a lot. Yeah, I mean, many different labels, many different names, but we're all talking about the same thing. It is the deeper or higher aspect of our being. And that's the
Mhm.
thing is it's this one being. It's we're not human beings. We are really the human being, or we're just the being.
We're
Yeah,
being human.
exactly. Yeah, that's it. We're being human. And that's the big switch. That's the big difference that dawns upon us is that, well, I feel this oneness within me, the interconnectivity to everything, the cosmos,
Hmm.
and especially I feel that oneness in others that aren't really
Hmm.
the others. And
Hmm.
yeah, that's how we get along here and create the new earth is we realize there is no separation. It's all an illusion. And we put down our defenses and work together, and I don't want to sound too hippie, but that really is the truth
Yeah,
is we stop fighting with each other and actually get along how we're supposed to. And
absolutely.
yeah, imagine like if humanity on that wavelength, 8 billion people, 9 billion, however many there are right now, all on that same exact wavelength of thy will be done.
Hmm.
Yeah, then truly we will live in some kind of magical alien world. Yeah.
Yeah. And, I think like one way to recognize if you're coming from that place of unity, of that oneness, of that I am, is to see if the emotion or the feeling that you're feeling is, if it's one that comes from unity, as in unconditional love,
Hmm.
which means from the heart, this unconditional love, not as in the emotional love that humans know it as, this affection thing, but this acceptance of everything as is and seeing the perfection in that.
Hmm.
If when that manifests through the human heart, through the human emotion, through here, literally, it comes in the human emotions that promote unity. So, compassion, that's something that unites us. Forgiveness, that's something that unites us. And then, yeah, sure, love. And then, if you want to look at the other spectrum, the emotions that cause division, those would be the obvious, like, I don't know, greed, jealousy, fear, anger. Those are all things that cause separation. And so that's like a good radar to see where you're at. Where is this feeling coming from? But not to judge our bad feelings, because
Yeah.
that's ridiculous. We are all have dark sides. We all come from the same ancestral line. It's part of us. It's to just become conscious of them, and then we could do something about them. Is to
Hmm.
transmute them, not deny them or throw them away. No, just acknowledge it first with love,
Yeah.
and then you could transmute it into feelings of unity.
Yeah. Really. And that's where the meditative practice comes in. So you can notice not only your breath, but you can notice how one is feeling toward any person or any situation that you don't respond in a destructive manner.
Hmm.
Yeah, and that's really how you transmutate. It's pretty simple, actually.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
Once
like,
you know it.
am I working on my animal instincts here of defensiveness and survival,
Hmm.
or am I working in unconditional love? That's
Exactly.
it.
Yeah.
It's like, what's my motive here? It's really like if you have a motive, actually, is there a motive? Then yeah, you're working from animalistic instincts and primal nature. And yeah, like you said, forgive yourself, forgive others, forgive
Hmm.
yourself as well. And yeah, little by little, we will be on that wavelength of unconditional love for sure. Yeah, powerful stuff. This is a good talk. Yeah,
Glad you think so.
yeah. Oh man, I don't even know where to go from here. But it's happening, if anybody's listening, I don't suspect this is true, but just throwing it out there. If anybody's listening and thinks we're crazy, thinks we're just a bunch of hippies on here just putting on a show, it's like, no, this is real. This is happening right now. The news might not tell you, TikTok might not tell you, but you will tell you if you go within and find this resonance within yourself, it becomes obvious actually and becomes apparent. It's realer than real. It's
Yeah.
realer than what the mind will tell you. It's realer than any story or narrative that the mind will conjure up to make you believe it's not true.
Hmm.
So, yeah, I guess that's all I got to say to that is, again, go within yourself and this will all become very apparent.
And I don't even like blame people for the skepticism that they might have on the subject of spirituality or the new earth. I actually don't blame them
Yeah.
because, I'm like by nature a skeptic myself.
Hmm.
If this type of these spiritual, supernatural, mystical experiences did not happen to me directly, I would probably have a very hard time believing other people saying these stories. So
Yeah.
I actually am very gracious about like these skeptics, and I get it. I'm like, I get it. I understand why you're skeptical.
Yeah.
But as someone who is skeptical, I'm telling you
Yeah.
that it's real, that there is this higher reality,
Yeah.
this deeper level of consciousness.
Hmm. I like to say skeptics or atheists are halfway there because it's
Yeah.
actually virtuous to be skeptical because if not, then you're just another automaton in the matrix. You're an NPC, right? Taking somebody's word for who you are or how you should be. So if you're
Yeah.
skeptical, for sure, I get it. Definitely come with a sense of grace in that regard toward others, but keep going. Keep
Exactly.
going.
And
Follow that skepticism.
that's it. And everybody's on their own evolutionary path too. We're not all, at the same level, and we're not all going to. Evolution happens in spikes, There's some more people here, some more advanced people there, some more behind, and it's okay. We're
Yeah.
all eventually there's an average of where everybody's at. And
Yeah.
so it's cool, It's all
Yeah.
good.
It's
Yeah.
all good. It's all perfect. Yeah. And that's what makes it interesting because if we all had the same path in this sort of linear fashion, I don't know, just it would be just not fun. It wouldn't be an adventure. Like this is the
Yeah.
hero's journey, is that I have my own stuff, you got your own stuff, the listener has their own stuff to work through and go through. And that's just part of the whole human experience. That's part of the dream that we're
Hmm.
in is that sense of the adventure. Like I said, the journey. I mean, that's another cliche, the spiritual journey. But it's true. We all have our own path. Maybe it's the same destination, you could say, but it's all our own path and
Yeah.
all of our own accord. but that's what's cool, this like that's what's magical about this whole thing. I almost get it like I just got a vision of like a beautiful mandala, like a mandala of God,
Mm,
and some of us have just different parts. We're just all different parts of the different mandala. And that's what makes this whole thing that we call life so unique. It's that there's this beautiful tapestry of experiences, and I
mm,
wouldn't want to be anybody else. I wouldn't want to have anybody else's struggle or success.
mhm.
Like you got to really honor yourself and your own journey.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about is honoring everything, the light and the darkness of your own journey. And that's what it's all about, man. That's how you I don't know, that's just how you find I don't know what the word is, peace, happiness, joy, how you learn to ride the waves a little bit better, the waves of your life. Swami Muktananda says, I quote this a lot, so I apologize, but he says, you can't stop the waves, but you can learn how to surf. We all got our own waves, and we all
Mm.
have our own way to learn of how to surf, but it's all the essence of surfing, I guess is my point. We're all learning to surf.
I love that actually because especially because I love surfing
Oh,
and
really?
when I do surf, I do it's such a when you're on that wave and when you're learning how to surf, there is you really do get life lessons, man. Like
Mm,
when you're riding those waves, you get like you understand life on a deeper level and the universe and there's so many lessons that can be learned from surfing and
yeah.
I'm not kidding like I've had like spiritual experiences by surfing
Uh,
just there's so I'm glad you said that and another thing I'm glad you said was honoring your path because today this morning when I was meditating the when I was connecting to my being and all that the one message that came very clearly was honor your path and so you saying that is a nice little confirmation of everything but that is absolutely true we are all on our own path and the path is not meant to be easy so people who think that the spiritual path is supposed to be easy and all love and light, that is false. It's
yeah.
not easy. You're literally deconstructing, you're demolishing yourself, this exterior version of you. And any form of death is always tragic. It's always painful to a degree. But what comes out of that is a rebirth, and that's the beautiful part. But
Yeah.
it's not transformation, metamorphosis. These are all painful processes, just like the caterpillar that literally decomposes itself in the cocoon and eats itself to use it as a nutrient to create its own wings. That's a painful process.
Hmm.
But once it's out of that cocoon, it's like, oh my God,
I can fly.
I could fly, baby.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, in birth is painful. Literal physical birth is painful for the
That's
mother. It's
painful.
traumatic for the baby.
Mm.
So yeah, it's all the same blueprint, you know?
Yeah. And
Oh, and it's worth it. Go ahead. Yeah.
there are times where even in my own awakening, like after awakening, when you're awakening, that glimpse, that short, for me, it lasted like 5, 6 months, which is considered a long time, but you have a true glimpse of, oh my God, this is heaven. But then when you're out of it, then you're back in hell and you didn't know that that
Mm,
was hell because you experienced something better. And
mm,
then for a long time, I was actually, it felt like a curse. I was actually like, why because the inability to be able to go back to that state because you know nothing about it and the society doesn't teach you anything about spiritual awakening and you're just completely
yeah.
disoriented
Mm,
it feels like a curse and you're like I rather would just not have known that because now I have to live with the fact that I can't go back there
mm.
until you obviously get on the spiritual path and become the seeker and
Yeah.
make the efforts to
Yeah.
get back there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think you just described integration of insight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a painful process,
Yeah, it's
but
painful,
it's
but it's
worth it.
worth it.
A
There you
hundred
go.
percent. 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's the only worthy endeavor. Like nothing else is truly worth it. I think one can come to find is you don't unsee it for sure, and you don't unsee or unfeel how you felt. So it's like, what else can I do? Like, what am I gonna do with my time here? That's how I feel, at least. It's like, what up? what do I got to do here? I know there's like a sense of dispassion, you know, Sanskrit vairagya, and I think that just comes along like dispassion in all of the stuff you thought was important or that you should do, and then realizing through discernment or viveka what you should do. And that just comes natural because it's like what I don't know, that's just how I feel. Maybe you can attest
Mhm.
to it. It's like what
Yeah.
there's nothing higher than this path. This is the path. It's funny because
Hmm.
I was thinking about this earlier. We label it the spiritual path. You know, there's other paths. There's the path of the sports player, the musician path, or there's the other blank paths you could go down in life. And we call this the spiritual path. But to me, it's like this isn't the spiritual path. This is the path. This is what we should, I don't like to say should or shouldn't, but for lack of a better word, this is what we should all be on, you know?
Yeah.
And in some way we are. I get that in an absolute sense. We are all on the spiritual path. But it's the knowing that we are on the spiritual path and the integration of insight that makes the difference. And it's not like anything separate. It's not like another path to partake. Like this is the human path, maybe is a better word. This is the this is the human way to live.
Yeah.
It's not the spiritual path, right?
Hmm.
For lack of a better term, that's what we say, but it's like, no, this is the path of the path. You know,
Yeah.
this is the capital T with a capital P
Yeah.
path, you know?
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
think Adyashanti, he calls it the most important thing. And
Mm,
he has a book called The Most Important Thing. And
yeah.
this is what he talks about. And this is true. The the awakening or the I am, the returning to self is the most important thing if you want to live this life that stems from this place.
Hmm.
Because if you haven't recognized yet or discovered your true self with a capital S, and you are following this athletic path or this musician path or whoever, whatever else path it is for each of us, it is coming from, to a degree, from the egoic tendency. It is coming from the ambition. It is coming from this crust layer of desire. But and it's not to say that, once you are operating from a place of your being, that you can't pursue those things, but it's going to change the experience completely.
Yeah.
So if let's say you were a musician and you haven't discovered yourself yet, and you aim to become a famous musician, and how many times have we heard of the successful people who finally reached the top only to realize, oh
Yeah.
shit, this isn't it. It's
Yep.
not what I thought it was going to be. We hear it all the time. And then onto this. So many like musicians go on the spiritual journey because they realize that it wasn't it. And
Yeah.
whereas if you actually operate from yourself because you've discovered yourself and you play music from the place of being, it's a different kind of experience.
Hmm.
Not because it's not coming from the egoic, but it's, musicians, it's a little of a gray zone because when they're in the zone and, they're in
Yeah.
flow, they do create incredibly beautiful music.
Yeah.
But I guess like there becomes no goal. And so it's just this joy, this ever flowing joy that you get to be in forever without this disappointment when you reach a certain top, you know,
Hmm.
because there
That's
is
it.
no top at the end.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, music is maybe a weird metaphor because there is an essence of meditation when one is playing and you're in
Yeah.
the zone. Literally, it's like it's
And sports
transcending.
too, you know.
That is very true. Yeah, maybe those are bad examples that I gave, but I think we.
No, but I think like it's the overall ambition that they have to take that thing and bring it somewhere and,
Hmm.
create a success story around it. But
Yeah.
but
When that's the
you know,
thing too, is a successful musician, a sports player, or chef will actually be better at their craft from this point of no desire, of just wanting to get lost in whatever the craft or pursuit is, right?
hmm
That's the sort of ironic thing about this is that whatever you got going on in your life, whatever your dharma is, you will only excel, right? You will only become a better expression of the humanly whatever is going on in your human life from this point of stillness, from not needing anything, from not doing it for any purpose. That's the
Hmm.
thing. It's like I'm not playing music so I can get paid. I'm not going to my job so I can get paid, even though that's why we all do it. But you'll become better. You'll become better at your job and
Yeah.
you'll get paid. That's the thing. And then you might get paid more, but you don't even care how much you get paid because you're just doing it for the joy of doing it. And I think that's a metaphor for our life. Is like you just get lost in the joy of doing whatever you need to do,
Hmm.
however mundane it might be too, because we can't ignore the mundaneness of the human experience, but there is a special spark that comes about from this wavelength, this meditative mindset, where even the mundane things that we think aren't important or we're doing that are pointless, it's special as well. There's a certain like knowing of what you're doing for no reason at all, whatever it may be, is also part of the path and part of this adventure we call life. Even in like the moments that don't seem like it, like doing the dishes or going to the bathroom, something just becomes renewed in how we
Hmm.
live in that way. And then you do the dishes better, you know, you become a better UFC fighter. You surf a little bit better because you're in the
Hmm.
moment. It
Yeah.
all comes from the moment. Really does.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Actually, funny enough, it's usually when I'm doing the dishes that I'm in my most peaceful state. And so sometimes I purposely don't use the dishwasher and I'll
Oh.
manually do the dishes for that reason. But
That's a practice.
it is a practice. And I call, I think there are like two purposes in life. I think Eckhart Tolle actually wrote about this, but I really resonate with it. And there are two purposes in a person's life. And one is the internal, the primary, and the principal one, which is the self-realization. And then the second one, which is the exterior purpose, what you do from the place of being.
Yeah.
So your doing changes. The experience of doing something changes when it's coming from a place of being.
Yeah.
It
Ooh, that's
changes
good.
completely. Yeah.
Mm.
And that's why I enjoy doing the dishes.
And those dishes are probably really clean.
They're sparkly.
Yeah, that's powerful. That's Shiva to Shakti, or sometimes I like to say from this ultimate potential point of energy comes
Mm.
this beautiful flow of kinetic energy.
Mm-hmm.
Seamless, right? From the
Mm.
stillness comes this flow. I don't know any other word to use, just like a beautiful flow with the rhythm
Yeah.
of our life. Yeah, I get that for sure. And that's touching on the point of surrender and how amidst this surrender we talked about before comes just a very just a gumption in my actions. I don't know how else to say, just like a gumption, a will to live altogether, honestly. And however we live, just a general willingness to carpe diem. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, powerful stuff. It's priceless. It truly is priceless. Yeah.
Yeah. And, I think Rumi said this. My God, I don't remember exactly the words, but I think it's somewhere along the lines of if you start, the pathway opens.
Mm,
It just opens up. And this is true. And when you come from a place of being, there is almost like this tangible magic that starts to actually happen in your life
yeah.
because when you're operating from your being, that is the highest vibration that you can live from because you're emanating this pure light and that is the highest vibration. So everything that you emit comes back. And so if you're operating from that place of being, which is the highest light, then the highest things can only come in a sense. But that's just a byproduct that I'm not saying this to focus on that, but
Yeah.
it's just a truth of operating from your being. When there's this lack of obstruction from the mental and the feelings and all that, and you're just creating this clear pathway, there's just magic that returns into your life. And in ways that, words will never make justice. It's not that like this big thing happens and you're going to win $1 million at the lottery. It's nothing like that.
You
Although that
might.
could be, but right.
Yeah.
But it's more this like subtlety of just joy and inner peace that comes. And for me, that is the definition of a path of least resistance because the resistance is your mind. Your for instance, if you want to go to the gym, I hear many times from myself and other people, we will always find excuses with our minds, like, and they're always good excuses not to go to the gym. It's like, not today, or I'm a little sore today, or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
whereas if you're actually operating from a place of being, because you're so in the here and now, you're in just the present. Your mind sort of like all those thoughts are just clouds that kind of get out of your way, and you're just able to do it from a place of being, just in the present moment. Just go to the gym without these obstructed thoughts.
Yeah.
And so that is how discipline becomes easier. And I'm trying to describe the path of least resistance. It's a
Mm-hmm.
maybe dumb example, but this is truly how it works. It's just you're able to just do things with more ease
Mm-hmm.
as well. And because you're from a place of presence and you don't have these cluttered thoughts all the time around this one path that you need to go towards,
Mm-hmm.
one thing you need to do. And so yeah, the path of least resistance is something that anyone could have when you come from a place of being. And that does require surrender
Mm-hmm.
to your being, to your higher self.
Yeah.
And in some ways, it does speak to you. It's not in words or not in anything like tangible or visions, but it's just this essence that you feel that's guiding you now. And so for me, that is a spirit-led life that you live. And that is the path of least resistance.
Yeah. That is the path.
Yeah, it's the path. It's the pathless path.
That's it. And you're either with it or against it. That's what I like to say.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
against it or against, you're going with the current or you're going against the current.
Yep. In the river of life.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He who is not with me is against me.
yeah,
You
precisely.
know? Yeah. Wow. This is really good. Powerful stuff. Yeah. Oh man. I think we can probably wrap it up at that. If you ain't with it, you're against it, man. It's that simple.
Exactly.
Oh man. Do you have anything else you'd like to say though to wrap this up, or you want to keep it at that?
Um, hmm. I would like to say something. I think, you know, this path to the self is an internal path, but and it may seem boring, meditation, like I am
Mm-hmm.
that I am. What does that
Mm-hmm.
even mean? It sounds
Mm-hmm.
so simple. It sounds like the boring work, it sounds boring. And I get that it's easy to overlook, and your mind is always going to try to override that. But I guess like if there's one thing I got to say is just try it. Just kind of take that moment and be self-disciplined enough just for 5 minutes and just try to go within yourself and try to recognize who is in you on the deepest level
Yeah.
and just sit with it, even if it's boring as hell. For if you can't do 5 minutes, try it for a minute or two, and that can potentially just keep growing and open up a whole new world for you.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, you know, that is my message, is do the boring work.
Yeah.
Just try it, because I promise you that it's nothing close to boring. If
Mm.
you discover this true sense of self, of who you are, not a sense, but the true self that you are, your true nature, it is the best thing that can happen to you in every way possible. So yeah, I think I'd like to end it with that.
Well, that's beautiful. Amen to that. Yeah. I imagine anybody that has listened this long knows exactly what you're talking about, and they have taken that sort of leap of faith already into what they are, that curiosity. They have let that lead the way. But if not, yes, words to live by. After you're done listening to this podcast, find some quiet time and just breathe. It really is that
Hmm.
simple.
Hmm. Or try a retreat, try a silent
Yeah.
retreat or Vipassana, even though
Hmm.
I've never done it, but I've done different kinds of retreats surrounding around the topic of non-duality or whatnot. But
Yeah.
just try it. You don't
Try
know
it.
what could happen there.
Mm.
Usually magic does happen in retreats because there's
Yeah.
that energy and that,
Yeah.
environment for
It's
you.
that
Yeah.
resonance.
Yeah.
Yeah. Find the others. That's what I like to say. Find
Yeah.
the others.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yes. Well, I'm glad that I found the others today because I think this was an awesome talk, Zenobia. You are an awesome person. Keep doing your thing, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much. Thanks for
Yeah,
having me. It was fun.
for sure. And peace and love to you, and peace and love to the listener. Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you.